Welcome to the Three Questions Webcast series. I'm Wayne Baxter, Senior Executive Manager with One Capital Management. At One Capital Management, we develop and implement strategies that enable our clients to grow, protect, and ultimately distribute their wealth. And we do that by offering investment wealth management services. Thank you for taking time to check us out. My clients are often referred to as cross-border clients. Now, why is that? Well, it's because they're either U.S. or Canadian residents who wish to invest in U.S. and or Canadian dollar-denominated securities like stocks, bonds, and ETFs. Our process for advising our clients includes an in-depth discovery and diagnostic analysis of their wealth management goals and objectives. And for Canadians looking to move to the United States or for U.S. residents, having a risk management strategy should be a part of your overall wealth management strategy. When considering your personal wealth, the term risk management can conjure out thoughts about the stock market and the strategies that you would employ to protect your liquid assets from unwanted stock market risk. Now, as an experienced advisor, I can assure you there are plenty of risks to consider beyond what you may experience when investing in the stock market. For example, considering asking yourself, how would I protect it financially if I was accused of causing an injury? On today's Three Questions webcast, we'll be reviewing the three questions a Canadian living in the United States should ask if they have been accused of causing an injury. Joining me once again is Jonathan Howell. Jonathan is a Los Angeles, California-based personal injury attorney and partner with the law firm Howell LLP. Jonathan represents individuals and families who have been hurt or lost a loved one due to negligence. Hi, Jonathan. It's great to see you again. Thank you for joining the Three Questions webcast series. Great to see you.
Hi, Wayne. Good seeing you again.
Good to be seen. And, I want to just say, the last time we had you on, we discussed the three questions an expat Canadian would ask, and basically looking through the lens of an expat now living here happily in the United States, and now they're dealing with an injury. And for those who haven't seen that webcast, I invite you to check it out. It was excellent. But on this episode, we're going to take a completely different view and then look at Canadians now living in the United States, the questions they should ask if they've been accused of causing an injury. It's a completely different look at things. And I would imagine as an attorney, and I should point out that primarily you work with the plaintiff, right? You're working not with the injurer, but the injured person, correct?
Right. Yeah, I represent the injured victims, but because of the nature of my practice, I'm very familiar and have have advised people regarding how to protect themselves.
Well, I'm really glad you agreed to spend a little additional time with us and just sort of provide some clarity and guidance when it comes to how to proceed. So I think the most obvious question that you would expect someone to ask if they found themselves in a situation where they've been accused of injuring somebody would be, do I have adequate insurance to cover the extent of damages? I would imagine that would be a question that's posed to you as well.
Yes. Actually, my throat's kind of scratchy, and I don't know if we want to start off where
we can go back to the top and I can reintroduce you. Not a problem. We can do that. We can just go back. Don't worry about it. Listen, you've clearly seen that I've been able to, it's totally cool. No, you don't worry about it.
I don't know. I was good on the last one.
Okay, let's just go right back to the very start here. Okay. Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going. Just go all the way. We'll go right back to the top. We'll just start over.
Yeah.
What about?
Where do you want to start? Where would you like to cut in?
There was a point where I cleared my throat. I was like, maybe
let's start here.
That's exactly what I meant when I said start over.
Yeah. Let's start right here.
Okay.
Is he good?
You're good to go, John?
Yeah,
let me clear.
My throat seems good. Yeah, we're good. Thank you for that.
No problem. Totally okay, believe me. Okay, 1, 2, 3. On today's Three Questions webcast, we'll be reviewing the three questions a Canadian living here in the United States should ask if they've been accused of causing an injury. Joining me once again is Jonathan Howell. Now, Jonathan is a Los Angeles, California-based personal injury attorney and a partner with the law firm Howell LLP. Jonathan represents individuals and families who have been hurt or have lost a loved one due to negligence. Hi, Jonathan. It's great to see you again. Thank you for joining the Three Questions webcast.
Hi, Wayne. It's good seeing you too.
Great. Thank you again, and great to see you. Now, the last time John joined us, on the Three Questions webcast, we discussed risk management through the lens of an expat Canadian now living happily here in the United States, and then all of a sudden having to deal with an injury. And for those who haven't seen that episode, I would invite you to watch it. It's excellent. But on this webcast, what we're going to do is explore the three questions a Canadian living in the United States would ask if they have been accused of causing an injury. Now, I should point out that my friend Jonathan typically works with the plaintiff, the aggrieved one. Maybe you could just sort of explain a little bit about that relationship before we proceed.
Right, Wayne. So yeah, I typically represent only injury victims. However, because of the nature of my practice, I'm very familiar and regularly give advice on how to protect yourself in the event that you're the person that caused the accident.
You know, and it's always, again, we always say it's always those who fail to plan to fail, right? So actually wouldn't be a bad idea, even before you get yourself in these sort of situations, to have a plan in place in case they do. The first question I think that will probably be asked is, do I have adequate insurance to cover the extent of damages?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that works perfectly with what you said about planning. If you're someone that's got a lot of assets or a high net worth, it's imperative that you have enough insurance to protect yourself. And I know a lot of times people think, well, I'm a great driver, nothing would ever happen to me, but you just can't prepare or plan for those events like they call, like a black swan event or something that you just can't predict. And if you ever find yourself where you're being accused of seriously hurting somebody and you have a minimum policy like 15,000, 30,000, but you have assets in the millions, well, the attorney's going to do a background check and then ask for you to pay personally above your policy because you're not adequately protected for your assets.
So your liquid assets in your investment account, like in a trust, for example, will be completely exposed if you didn't have a suitable amount of insurance.
Potentially. I mean, I know for sure the first thing that a lot of people do are property checks to see what type of home you live in, or if you own other properties or a member of an LLC that owns property. But one of the simplest things would just be to check your home address. And if you're living, and it's happened to me where I've had a case, a person was living in a $5 million home, had a $100,000 policy, and they were, it was a drunk driver hit and run case. So there was, that person, I don't know what they were thinking, but they were coming back from a party, seriously injured my client. I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of medical bills, permanent disability. They had a $100,000 policy. And what obviously tipped us off right away was that they were living in a mansion in Beverly Hills, and we could say, look, this person doesn't have enough insurance. They need to contribute personally now because they haven't adequately protected themselves and they seriously hurt somebody.
Okay, so that leads to the next question, not of the three questions, but more of an addendum to question number one. You mentioned about potential property. What about future wages, future earnings? Are they potentially at risk as well?
Absolutely. You can get a judgment against somebody. It's the same type of judgment as, any like a business judgment. It could be recorded. It could be used against future properties. It could be used against the sale of the property. It could follow you around. We have had cases where they do it's called the till tap, where a sheriff will come to the business and sit and operate the business, or you've heard of receivers. I mean, you can do all sorts of things. It can be very destructive. Sometimes people will threaten to go into bankruptcy, but going into bankruptcy has a whole slew of its own problems.
Mm-hmm.
And the simplest thing to do is just have adequate insurance.
Right. All right. So that's pretty clear. Okay. Now, again, so we recognize that we have caused an injury, and hopefully I have enough coverage. Now, like, as a next question should be, well, what next steps should I be taking? What should I do?
Yeah, that's a good question. The first thing that I always recommend is call your insurance company, notify them of the claim. Your insurance company will hire lawyers, they'll hire investigators, they'll do what they need to do to protect you and ultimately protect themselves, because they're the ones that are going to be paying out on the claim up to the policy limits. So that's step one. I also recommend that you document the evidence as much as you can. So if at the scene photograph the property damage, photograph the scene of the location, because sometimes you may feel like, oh, maybe I was the person that caused this accident, but evidence later could prove that maybe you weren't at fault or weren't entirely at fault. Maybe the other person shares responsibility too. And those early photographs and videos can go a long way in helping to prove that.
All right. So the idea of actually finding out if there were any cameras that were actually recording the incident, and you can get access to that information, and it could actually protect you.
That's actually a really good point. In this day and age, there are those like Nest cameras or other types of internet cameras all over the place, in residential and commercial. And we've had many cases where we've hired an investigator to go door to door and get video that shows the evidence and could either prove that our client was not at fault or prove that there were some other extenuating circumstances. So don't be afraid if you believe there are cameras in the area, try to locate them. One thing that does come up is if too much time goes by, they do get overwritten. So you don't want to wait or let too much time go by before you investigate whether cameras are available.
So good point, though. If you think you're definitely not at fault, make sure find out if there's anything that recorded it. Okay, right. Recorded the incident. Okay, so now I would have thought, I must admit, when we discussed this, that question number one would have something to do with the police. And so I guess the question I would do is, what do I do if I'm actually contacted by the police? What do I do?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it can. We talked earlier about your lawyer friends and myself included saying it depends. Every case is a little bit different, and it's hard to give general advice when speaking to the police. But oftentimes the police will show up to the scene of an accident, and if it's not a criminal situation, you'll find yourself speaking to the police. And what I always recommend is to keep it short and factual. Don't blurt things out like, oh, it's my fault, I'm sorry, or editorialize. Keep it very short, because remember, everything that you tell the police officer is going to be typed up in that report, and someone's going to scrutinize it later, and you may regret things that you've told the police. I remember seeing one police report where the defendant was drunk, and they asked her to do some of those drunk tests to verify the level of how inebriated she was. And she said, "I'm not a ballerina." And they wrote that in the police report. And, I'm sure she regretted seeing that later.
I say, John, you always have the best little anecdotes. We've covered a lot of ground here over the last two webcasts. And, I'm sure people watching this webcast are going to say, this Jonathan guy's pretty smart, and which he is, which you are.
Hopefully.
and well-informed. So for someone who's actually looking to kind of contact you, what would, looking for some assistance or maybe just some clarity, what I will note here that we do have your contact information on the screen, but is there a preferred way? Is it by email? Is it by phone? By what? What's the best way for people to contact you?
Yeah, you can call my office at 888-712-0017, or you can always email me directly at JohnJON@Howell, HOWELL, justice.com.
Okay, John, I want to really thank you for taking part again today. Great guest. Undoubtedly going forward, we're going to want to have you come back. I'm sure there'll be other topics that we can address here on Three Questions. I want to thank you again for making time for us.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Wayne. I really appreciate it.
That's Jonathan Howell with Howell LLP. I hope that the Three Questions webcast with Jonathan Howell reinforces the importance of implementing a well-thought-out wealth management strategy. And as an experienced advisor, I can assure you that a well-thought-out wealth management strategy includes more than simply having a well-diversified investment strategy with regularly scheduled contributions or withdrawals, as the case may be. It takes planning and more planning. And that planning should include a serious look at to where your finances are at risk, whether it be due to a potential lawsuit, litigation involving yourself or a loved one. There are strategies that you can implement that will help you protect you and your family's finances. Now, as you can see, it takes a team of carefully selected experts, each with a high level of knowledge and skill. And the purpose of the 3 Questions webcast is to introduce you to some of these experts. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to our YouTube channel. And to receive notifications of when our next webcast has been posted, please click on the notifications bell. Lastly, to schedule an online Zoom consultation with me to discuss your wealth management needs, please click on the link in the description box below, www.onecapital.com/meet with Wayne. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.